The morning sun painted the sky purple over New Hambach. Dr. Jinwoo stood at his lab window and watched the giant shapes moving in the distance. Even after 5 years on this world, the sights still amazed him. The Dracomori were beautiful creatures, each one as big as an old earth building, with scales that changed color like living rainbows. "Good morning, Jinwoo," said Hana as she walked into the lab. She carried 2 cups of coffee and handed one to him. "Sleep well? Better than yesterday." Jinwoo took the warm cup and smiled. The young ones were practicing their flying again last night. Their wing beats shake the whole research station. Hana laughed. "At least they are getting stronger. Remember, when little Kef could barely lift off the ground, now he can carry 3 people on his back." New Hambach was not like other human colonies. Most human settlements in space were built to keep aliens away. This place was different. Here, humans and Dracomori lived together. They helped each other. They were friends. The colony started 20 years ago when Captain Do-yun crashed his ship on this world. His crew was hurt, and their ship was broken. They thought they would die here, but the Dracomori found them first. Instead of attacking, the dragon-like beings brought food and medicine. They fixed the human ship with their strong claws and fire breath. Captain Do-yun could have left. His ship was working again, but he stayed. He saw something special in the Dracomori. They were not just smart animals. They had feelings. They had art. They had stories older than human space travel. Soon, more humans came. Scientists like Jinwoo, doctors like Hana, engineers and teachers and farmers. They all wanted to learn from the Dracomori and share human knowledge too. "The morning scan shows 18 Dracomori near the Eastern Valley," Hana said, looking at her computer tablet. "Elder Nethys is with them," Jinwoo nodded. Elder Nethys was special even among the Dracomori. She was over 500 years old and remembered things from before humans reached the stars. Her scales were pure silver, and her eyes held wisdom that made even the proudest humans feel humble. "Is she still teaching the young ones about the crystal forest?" Jinwoo asked. "Yes, but Wanban says she looks tired lately, more tired than usual." Wanban was the colony's best Dracomori speaker. He could understand their special way of talking with thoughts instead of words. Most humans needed machines to talk with Dracomori, but Wanban learned to do it with just his mind. Jinwoo put down his coffee cup. "I should check on the weekly health reports. The Galactic Council wants to know how our partnership with the Dracomori is working. They still do not believe it, do they?" Hana asked. "Other species think we are crazy for living so close to such powerful creatures. Let them think that," Jinwoo said. "We know the truth. The Dracomori are not dangerous to us. They protect us." This was true. 3 times, space pirates had tried to attack New Hambach. 3 times, the Dracomori had driven them away. The dragon beings could fly faster than most spaceships, and their fire could melt metal from a mile away. But they only used their power to protect the colony and the peaceful life everyone had built together. Jinwoo walked to his work desk and turned on his computer. His job was to study how humans and Dracomori could work together better. He measured their health, watched how they talked to each other, and wrote reports for the other human colonies. His computer screen showed pictures of Dracomori families. There was Kef, the young one Hana talked about, playing with human children in the colony playground. There was Morvix, who helped human farmers carry heavy equipment to far fields. And there was Yenna, who loved human music and often sang along to Earth songs with her deep, rumbling voice. "Look at this," Hana said, pointing to her own computer. "The colony population report. We now have 412 humans and 63 Dracomori living together. The numbers keep growing every month." "More families want to come here?" Jinwoo said. "Earth sends messages every week asking about New Hambach. They want to know our secret." "What do you tell them?" "I tell them there is no secret. Just respect and kindness." But Jinwoo knew it was more than that. Something special happened when humans and Dracomori were together. The humans became braver and wiser. The Dracomori became more creative and hopeful. Together, they could solve problems that neither group could handle alone. The lab door opened and young Minho ran inside. He worked as an engineer and usually stayed calm, but today his face showed worry. "Jinwoo, Hana! You need to come quickly. Something is wrong with Elder Nethys." They followed Minho outside and toward the eastern valley. Other colonists were already there, standing in a circle around the great silver dragon. Elder Nethys lay on the ground, her huge head resting on the grass. Her beautiful silver scales looked dull and gray. Wanbin knelt beside her massive head, his hand touching her snout. His eyes were closed as he listened to her thoughts. "What is she saying?" Jinwoo asked quietly. Wanbin opened his eyes. His face was pale. "She says there is something she must tell us, something about Vorath." "Vorath?" Hannah whispered. "But no one has seen Vorath for years." "Exactly," Wanbin said. "And Elder Nethys says that is the problem. Vorath is in trouble, big trouble. And if we do not help him soon, all the Drachmori might die." The colonists looked at each other with fear and confusion. They had built a perfect life on New Hanbok, but now their peaceful world faced its greatest challenge yet. Elder Nethys lifted her great silver head from the grass. Her eyes, usually bright like stars, looked dim and sad. The colonists gathered closer, but stayed respectful. Even the children knew this was serious. Wanbin placed both hands on the dragon's snout and closed his eyes again. His face showed concentration as he listened to her thoughts. After a long moment, he opened his eyes and looked at Jinwoo. "She wants to tell us about Vorath," Wanbin said. "But the story is long and painful. She says we need to understand everything or we cannot help." "Tell us," Jinwoo said gently. "We will listen." Wanbin nodded and touched Elder Nethys again. This time, something amazing happened. Instead of just hearing her thoughts, everyone could see them. Pictures formed in the air above her head. Made of light and memory. The first picture showed a dragon bigger than any they had ever seen. His scales were deep blue like ocean water, and his eyes burned bright gold. When he spread his wings, they blocked out the sun. This was Vorath in his prime. "Vorath is the greatest of all Drachmori," Wanbin said, speaking Elder Nethys' words. "He is our king, our protector, our teacher. For 1,000 years he kept our people safe." The pictures changed. Now they showed many worlds with Drachmori living on them. Families of dragons flying between planets, carrying goods and messages. Young Drachmori learning to breathe fire and older ones sharing wisdom. It was a beautiful civilization. 300 years ago, the Great Stellar War began, Wanbin continued. The Zephyrite Empire wanted to destroy all non-human life in this part of the galaxy. They had weapons that could burn entire planets. The pictures turned dark and scary. Huge metal ships filled the sky, shooting beams of deadly light. Planets exploded into pieces. Whole species disappeared forever. Little Gina, one of the human children, grabbed her father's hand. "Did the bad ships come here too?" she whispered. "Yes," Wanbin said sadly. "They came to the Drachmori homeworld. They wanted to kill every dragon and take the crystal forests for themselves." The pictures showed the Drachmori homeworld. It was the most beautiful place anyone could imagine. Trees made of living crystal grew toward the sky, singing in the wind. The light from these trees could heal sickness and make plants grow. That was why the Zephyrites wanted it so badly. "Vorath fought to save our home," Wanbin said. "He was magnificent. He destroyed 100 enemy ships by himself. But then they brought their biggest weapon." The picture showed a massive ship, 10 times larger than the others. From its front came a beam of pure white fire, hot enough to melt mountains. "Vorath put himself between the weapon and our homeworld," Wanbin explained. "He spread his wings wide and took the full blast. The fire burned for 3 days straight. It should have killed him," Minho stepped forward. "But it didn't kill him?" "No, Vorath lived. But the fire took his sight forever. Since that day he has been blind." The pictures showed Vorath after the battle. His beautiful blue scales had turned, black around his eyes. He moved slowly, carefully, no longer the confident king he had been. "The Zephyrites stopped their attack," Wanbin said. "They saw what Vorath did, and they became afraid. Any being willing to sacrifice himself like that was too dangerous to fight. They left our worlds alone. Dr. Hana moved closer. So Voreth saved everyone by losing his sight? Yes, he became a hero to all Drakmori. But now, 300 years later, something worse is happening. The blindness is spreading. Elder Nethys made a low, sad sound. New pictures formed in the air. These showed Voreth as he was now, alone in a dark cave far from any other dragons. At first, only his eyes were damaged, Wanbin said. But the weapon that hurt him left something behind. Something evil. It grows stronger every year. What kind? Of something? Jinwu asked. We do not know. It is like a sickness, but not a normal sickness. Voreth is losing more than his sight now. He cannot speak with thoughts anymore. He cannot feel other dragons nearby. Soon he will lose all connection to our people. Young engineer Minho pulled out his portable scanner and pointed it toward the pictures. The device started beeping wildly. That's impossible, Minho said, staring at his scanner. I'm reading energy signatures that don't match anything in our databases. What does that mean? Asked Soman, the colony's teacher. Minho looked confused and worried. These energy patterns, they're not biological. They're not technological either. It's like they come from somewhere else entirely. Elder Nethi says you are right, Wanbin said. The doctors from many worlds have tried to help Voreth. The best healers in the galaxy have examined him. None of them can understand what is wrong. Even the Galactic Medical Consortium? Hannah asked. The consortium had the most advanced healing technology in known space. They came last year, Wanbin replied. Their machines could not even detect what was hurting Voreth. They said his condition was impossible and left. The pictures faded away, leaving only the worried faces of colonists and the sad eyes of Elder Nethys. Why are you telling us this now? Jinwu asked gently. Wanbin was quiet for a moment, listening to Elder Nethys' thoughts. When he spoke again, his voice was very serious. Because yesterday Voreth sent his last message to our people. He said the darkness is almost complete. In 1 month, maybe less, he will lose all connection to other Drakmori. When that happens, ... What? Several? People asked at once. When the greatest of our kind dies alone and forgotten, something in all Drakmori will break. We will lose our ability to work together. Our families will scatter across the galaxy and never find each other again. The Drakmori as a people will end. The colonists stood in shocked silence. They had come to love their dragon friends deeply. The idea of the Drakmori disappearing forever was horrible. Little Gina tugged on Wanbin's shirt. Can't we help? Humans are good at fixing things. Wanbin smiled sadly and touched her head. Elder Nethys hopes so. She says humans see the world differently than other species. Maybe you can find something that everyone else missed. Jinwu looked at his fellow colonists. He saw determination in their faces, the same look humans got when facing impossible challenges. Where is Voreth now? Jinwu asked. Far away, in the deep caverns of the crystal moon. It takes 7 days to fly there, even for the fastest Drakmori. Then we better start preparing for a journey, Jinwu said firmly. If there's even a small chance we can help, we have to try. Elder. Nethys lifted her head higher and looked directly at Jinwu. For the first time that day, her eyes showed hope. The humans of New Hambach had a new mission, and they would not give up until they found a way to save their friend. 3 days after Elder Nethys told them about Voreth, the colonists were busy preparing for their journey. Jinwu and his team packed medical equipment while others gathered food and supplies. Everyone wanted to help save the great dragon Nara. Walked through the eastern forests, looking for special plants that might help with healing. She was the colony's cultural anthropologist, which meant she studied how different peoples lived and thought. On New Hambach, she spent most of her time learning about Drakmori customs and traditions. The forest was quiet except for the sound of wind in the crystal trees. These trees were smaller versions of the ones on the Drakmori homeworld. They hummed softly and glowed with pale blue light. Nara always felt peaceful here. She was collecting samples of healing moss when she smelled something strange. It was like fresh bread mixed with old books and something else she could not name. Following the smell, she walked deeper into the forest. After 10 minutes, Nara saw something that made her stop and stare. There was a small house sitting in a clearing where no house had been before. It looked like the old cottages from Earth. Fairy tale-y with a thatched roof and walls made of dark wood. Smoke came from its chimney, but this house was different from normal houses in one important way. It stood on two giant chicken legs that shifted and moved, keeping the house balanced on the uneven ground. "That's impossible," Nara whispered to herself. The door of the strange house opened and a young woman stepped out. She looked about 25 years old and had long black hair with streaks of silver. Her clothes were a mix of old Earth fashion and modern space gear. She smiled at Nara. "Hello there," the woman said in perfect English. "You look surprised. Your house." "It has legs," Nara said, pointing. "Oh yes, that. Papa always said a house should be able to move when trouble comes. I'm Yuki, by the way, and you must be from the human colony." Nara tried to make sense of what she was seeing. "How did you get here? We didn't detect any ships landing." "I don't use ships," Yuki said with a laugh. "I travel the old way." "Much more reliable than all that modern technology. Would you like some tea? You look like you need to sit down." Against her better judgment, Nara followed Yuki into the impossible house. Inside, it was bigger than it looked from outside. The walls were covered with shelves full of bottles, jars, and strange objects. A fire crackled in a stone fireplace, and the smell of herbs filled the air. "Sit," Yuki said, pointing to a comfortable chair. "I'll make us something warm to drink." "Who are you really?" Nara asked as Yuki worked at her stove. "And don't tell me you're just a traveler. Houses don't grow chicken legs." Yuki poured hot water into 2 cups and added leaves that glowed green for a moment. "My mother is Baba Yaga. You might have heard of her in Earth Stories." "Baba Yaga is a fairy tale character," Nara said slowly. "Is she?" Yuki handed Nara a cup of tea. It tasted like autumn leaves and warm sunshine. "Your people tell many stories about my mother. Some are true, some are not, but she is very real." Nara sipped the strange tea and felt her mind becoming clearer. "Let's say I believe you. Why are you here?" "I follow the sickness," Yuki said, sitting in another chair. "There is a curse spreading through this part of the galaxy. It affects different species in different ways. I have been tracking it for 50 years. 50 years? But you look so young." "Time moves differently for my family," Yuki said with a shrug. "I age slowly, like Mother. She's over 800 years old and still beautiful." Nara thought about Vorath and his mysterious condition. This sickness, does it make things blind? Yuki's eyes grew sharp. "You know about the dragon?" "Vorath, yes. Our friends, the Drakmori, told us he's dying from something that doctors can't understand." "Void fragments," Yuki said quietly. "That's what Mother calls them. Pieces of dark energy that eat hope and love. They come from the spaces between worlds." "That doesn't sound scientific." "Your science is young," Yuki said kindly. "There are many things in the universe that your instruments cannot measure. Magic is real, just different from technology." Before Nara could ask more questions, her radio crackled to life. "Nara, where are you?" It was Taiho, the colony security chief. "We've been looking for you for an hour." Nara picked up her radio. "I'm in the eastern forest, in Teho. You need to come here. Bring Zhenwu and the others. I found something important." "What kind of something?" Nara looked at Yuki, who nodded. "I found someone who might be able to help Vorath." 20 minutes later, Taiho arrived with Jinwoo, Hana, and Minho. They all stopped and stared at the house on chicken legs. "What in the name of Earth is that?" Taiho demanded. "That," said Yuki, stepping out of her house, "is my home. And you must be the humans who want to help the dragon." Taiho pulled out his scanner and pointed it at Yuki. The device made confused beeping sounds and showed error messages. "She's not reading as completely human," Taiho said suspiciously. "And this house is giving off energy signatures that match no known technology." "I told you," Yuki said patiently. "I don't use technology." "I use older methods." "Prove it," Taiho challenged. Show us this magic you claim to have. Yuki smiled and walked to a small garden beside her house. She knelt down and whispered to the plants in a language none of them recognized. The plants began to grow rapidly, blooming with flowers that sang in tiny voices. Then she picked up a handful of dirt and blew on it. The dirt turned into butterflies made of light that flew around the amazed humans before turning back into dirt. Magic is just science you don't understand yet, Yuki said. Your people have forgotten the old ways, but they still work. Jinwoo stepped forward. Can you really help Vorath? Maybe, Yuki said. But first, you need to understand something important. When your people left Earth and spread across the galaxy, you carried more than just your bodies and technology. You carried your stories, your dreams, your myths. What does that mean? Hannah asked. It means that all the creatures from Earth's old stories are real, and they followed you to the stars. Dragons, witches, spirits, monsters, ... We all found new homes among the stars because humans believe in us, Minho frowned. Are you saying we created you with our imagination? Not created, awakened, given form? Your stories have power, Yuki explained. And sometimes that power can heal what science cannot touch. Taiho still looked doubtful, but Jinwoo was nodding slowly. If you can help Vorath, Jinwoo said, what do you need from us? Partnership, Yuki said simply. I know about void fragments and how to fight them. But I need your human determination and hope to make the cure work. Magic alone is not enough. It needs to be mixed with human will. That sounds dangerous, Taiho warned. Helping others is always dangerous, Yuki replied. But humans are good at dangerous things when they believe in what they're doing. She looked at each of them carefully. The question is, do you believe enough to risk everything for a dragon you've never met? Jinwoo thought about Elder Nethys and all the Drakmori who would lose their way if Vorath died. He thought about the peaceful life they had built on New Hambach. Yes, he said firmly. We believe. Yuki's smile was brighter than the glowing crystal. Trees. Then let's get started. We have a dragon to save. The next morning, Yuki moved her strange house closer to the colony. The giant chicken legs walked carefully between the buildings, making the colonists stare in wonder. Children followed the walking house, laughing and pointing at the moving legs.yuk. I set up her house near the main laboratory where Jinwoo worked. She said she needed to be close to the colony's science equipment for what came next. What exactly are we going to do? Asked Wanho, the colony's quantum chemist. He was a quiet man who usually worked alone with his complex machines. We are going to make medicine, Yuki said simply, but not the kind you are used to making. She invited Wanho, Jinwoo, Hana, and Minho into her house. The inside had changed overnight. Now it looked half like a witch's kitchen and half like a modern laboratory. Old glass bottles sat next to electronic devices. Herbs hung from the ceiling next to computer screens. This is impossible, Wanho said, looking around. How did you combine magic with science equipment? They are not as different as you think, Yuki replied. Your chemistry changes one thing into another thing. My magic does the same, we just use different methods. She led them to a large table covered with strange objects. There were crystals that pulsed with inner light, bottles filled with swirling mist, and books written in languages none of them could read. To heal Vorath, we must first understand what is really wrong with him, Yuki said. She picked up a small mirror that showed not their faces, but swirling darkness. Look into this. See what I see. One by one, they looked into the magic mirror. Each person gasped at what they saw. Instead of Vorath the dragon, they saw a creature made of shadow and pain. Dark fragments floated around him like hungry insects eating away at his light. Void fragments, Yuki explained. They come from the empty spaces between stars. Normally, they cannot touch living things. But when someone suffers great pain and loneliness, they create cracks that let the void fragments in. So Vorath's sacrifice 300 years ago made him vulnerable? Hana asked. Yes, his heroic act saved everyone, but it left him alone with his pain. The void fragments have been feeding on his sadness ever since. Wanho studied the mirror carefully. These fragments, They operate outside normal physics. My equipment can't measure them because they exist in a different kind of space. Exactly, Yuki said. That is why normal medicine cannot help him. We need medicine that works in both your world and mine. She pulled out a recipe written on old paper. The writing glowed with soft blue light. These are the ingredients we need, she said. First, tears of pure joy from the crystal singers of Andromeda. Second, starlight that has been filtered through. Human hope. Third, water from the first rain after a long drought. And fourth, she paused and looked sad. What's the fourth ingredient? Jinwoo asked. A piece of my own life force, Yuki said quietly. The medicine will not work without it, but giving it away will make me weaker forever. We can't ask you to do that, Hannah protested. You are not asking. I am choosing, Yuki replied firmly. Vorath is not the only one suffering from void fragments. I have seen this sickness on 12 worlds. If we can cure him, we can save others too. Minho pulled out his computer tablet. The crystal singers live 3 star systems away. It would take weeks to reach them with our fastest ship. And they don't usually help outsiders, Wonho added. They're very protective of their emotions. Rina, Jinwoo's daughter, stepped forward. She was 23 years old and the colony's best pilot. I can get there in 5 days if I use the courier ship. And I know how to talk to the crystal singers. Absolutely not, Jinwoo said immediately. It's too dangerous. Dad, we don't have time to argue, Rina said. Every day we wait, Vorath gets worse. Someone has to go, and I'm the fastest pilot we have. Taiho, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. She's right, Jinwoo. And I'll go with her to make sure she stays safe, Yuki nodded approvingly. Good, but remember, you cannot take the tears by force. The crystal singers must give them freely, or they will not work. How do we get? Starlight filtered through human hope, Wonho asked. That part we can do here, Yuki said. We will need every person in the colony to focus their hopeful thoughts while we collect light from your sun. And the rainwater? I can make it rain, Yuki said with a small smile. That is easy magic. For the next hour, Yuki and Wonho worked together to design the mixing process. It was unlike anything the scientist had ever done before. They would use his quantum chemistry equipment to hold the magical ingredients while Yuki cast spells to bind them together. This is crazy, Wonho muttered as he calibrated his machines. I'm trying to measure hope and joy with scientific instruments. Science is just another kind of magic, Yuki said. You take things apart to understand how they work. I put things together to make new possibilities. While they worked, Rina and Taiho prepared for their journey. The whole colony came to see them off. Even the young Drakmori, Kef, offered to fly alongside their ship for the first part of the journey. Bring back good news, little Gina said, hugging Rina goodbye. We will, Rina promised Dot as their ship lifted into the purple sky. Yuki began preparing for the hardest part of their task. She gathered the colonists in the main square as the sun reached its highest point. Everyone must think of the same thing, she told them. Think of Vorath seeing again. Think of him happy and free. Put all your hope into the sunlight. The colonists closed their eyes and concentrated. Adults and children, humans and young Drakmori, all focused their thoughts on healing the great dragon they had never met. Yuki held up a crystal bottle and spoke words in the old language. The sunlight began to swirl and flow into the bottle like golden honey, but this was not ordinary light. It glowed with the warmth of human kindness and the strength of their determination. It's working, Wonho whispered, watching his instruments. The light is actually carrying emotional energy. I can measure it. When the bottle was full, Yuki sealed it carefully. Now we wait for the others to return. And we hope that love is stronger than the darkness between stars. Thunder rolled across the sky as Yuki prepared to make it rain. The first drops that fell would complete their medicine and give them a chance to save not just Vorath, but all the creatures suffering from the void fragment's hunger. The real test was still to come. 4 days after Rina and Taiho left for the Crystal Singer world, their ship appeared in New Hambach's sky. The whole colony gathered to meet them as they landed. Rena stepped out first, carrying a small container that glowed with soft rainbow light. "We got them," she said, holding up the container. "The crystal singers gave us their tears of joy willingly." "How did you convince them?" Jinwoo asked, hugging his daughter. "We told them about Vorath's sacrifice," Taiho explained. "When they heard how he saved his people by giving up his sight, they cried tears of such pure joy that they lit up their whole city. They said any being capable of such love deserved to see again." Yuki took the container carefully. Inside, 3 perfect tears floated like liquid diamonds. Each one held centuries of happiness and hope. "Beautiful," she whispered. "Now we have everything we need." She led everyone to her house where the other ingredients waited. The bottle of hope-filled starlight sat next to a jar of rainwater that still sparkled with magic. On the table lay a small knife that glowed with inner fire. "Are you sure about this?" Hannah asked as Yuki picked up the knife. "Yes," Yuki said firmly. "Vorath has suffered alone for 300 years. That ends today." She pressed the knife to her palm and let 3 drops of her golden blood fall into a crystal bowl. As soon as her blood touched the air, it began to glow like a tiny star. Wonho watched his instruments as Yuki began mixing the ingredients. "This is incredible," he said. "The energy readings are off the charts, but they're completely stable. It's like the magic is using quantum mechanics to hold itself together." Yuki added each ingredient slowly, speaking words in the old language. The crystal singer tears made the mixture glow with rainbow colors. The hope-filled starlight turned it warm gold. The rainwater made it shimmer like liquid metal. Finally, her blood bound everything together with threads of pure life force. "It's ready," she said, holding up a small bottle filled with the most beautiful liquid anyone had ever seen. "But now we face the hardest part, getting to Vorath," Minho asked. "No. Applying the medicine properly requires the whole colony to work together. Everyone must focus their thoughts and energy while I give Vorath the eye drops. If even one person stops believing, the healing will fail." Elder Nethys, who had been waiting nearby, lifted her great silver head. Through Womban she spoke to. Vorath is coming here," Wombin translated. Elder Nethys called to him across the stars. "He flies toward us now, but he is very weak. He will arrive by sunset." "How can he fly if he's blind?" Young Hai asked. Hing was only 8 years old, the smallest child in the colony. "Dragons have other senses," Wanbin explained. "But Vorath can barely use them anymore. This will probably be his last journey." As the sun began to set, the colonists prepared for Vorath's arrival. They cleared a large space in the center of town and arranged themselves in a circle. Yuki stood in the middle with her bottle of medicine, while Wonho set up equipment to help focus their combined mental energy. "Remember," Yuki told everyone, "when Vorath arrives, you must think only positive thoughts. Hope, love, joy, friendship. The void fragments feed on sadness and fear. We must give them nothing to eat." A shadow fell across the colony as something huge blocked out the setting sun. Vorath descended slowly, his massive wings barely keeping him in the air. When he landed, the ground shook under his weight. He was even bigger than the pictures had shown. His scales, once brilliant blue, were now dull black around his eyes and fading to gray everywhere else. His great head hung low, and his breathing was labored and painful. "Oh, Vorath," Elder Nethys said sadly through Wanbin. "My old friend, you have suffered so much." Vorath tried to respond, but only a weak rumble came from his throat. The void fragments had stolen even his voice. "Everyone join hands," Yuki commanded. "Form one big circle around Vorath. Let your thoughts flow together." The colonists and Drakmori linked hands and minds. Even little Haiyan took the hand of a young Drakmori and closed his eyes tightly, thinking as hard as he could about happy things. Yuki approached Vorath carefully. The great dragon sensed her coming and lowered his head until she could reach his eyes. Up close, she could see the void fragments crawling like black insects across his face. "Be brave, Ancient One," she whispered. "This will hurt at first, but then the pain will end forever." She tilted the bottle and let one drop of the magic medicine fall into Vorth's right eye. The dragon's whole body shuddered as light and darkness fought inside him. The void fragments shrieked with voices like breaking glass and tried to dig deeper into his flesh. "Don't stop believing!" Yuki shouted to the colonists. "Think harder, love stronger." The circle of humans and Drakmori poured all their hope into Vorth. Their combined will pushed against the darkness, giving the medicine power to work. Yuk I applied the second drop to Vorth's left eye. This time, flashes of golden light began driving the void fragments away. They dissolved like smoke. In the wind, their hungry screams fading to nothing. For a long moment, nothing happened. Vorth lay still, barely breathing. Then, slowly, he lifted his great head. His eyes, which had been dead black for 3 centuries, began to glow with the faintest hint of gold. "Light," Wanbin whispered, translating Vorth's thoughts. "He says he can see light." The glow in Vorth's eyes grew stronger. He turned his head left and right, seeing the shapes of buildings and trees for the first time in hundreds of years. "Shapes," Wanbin said, tears streaming down his face. "He can see shapes now." Finally, Vorth's eyes blazed with full golden fire. He looked around the circle of colonists and Drakmori, seeing each face clearly. His gaze stopped when it reached Little Hyen, who was jumping up and down with excitement. "Hello, big dragon," Hyen called out, waving both hands. "Can you see me?" Vorth stared at the small human child, and then did something he had not done in 300 years. He smiled. When a dragon that size smiles, it lights up the whole world. The moment of connection between the ancient dragon and the tiny human child created something beautiful. A wave of pure joy and wonder spread out from New Hanbok, traveling faster than light across the galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, people. An alien suddenly felt a moment of perfect happiness without knowing why. "Thank you," Vorth said, his voice like gentle thunder. He could speak again. "Thank you, small humans. You have given me more than sight. You have given me hope." Elder Nethys flew to Vorth's side, and the 2 great dragons touched snouts in greeting. All around them, the colonists cheered and cried. Happy tears, the healing was complete. Vorth could see, speak, and feel the minds of his people again. The void fragments were gone forever, but this was only the beginning of something much larger. The wave of joy that spread from Vorth's healing reached the farthest corners of the galaxy within hours. On space stations and alien worlds, beings who had never heard of New Hanbok suddenly felt a moment of pure happiness and wondered what had caused it. 3 days later, the first messages began arriving at the colony. Wook, the colony's communication officer, stared at his screens in amazement. "Jinwoo, you need to see this. We're getting calls from everywhere." Jinwoo hurried to the communication center, followed by Hana and several others. The main screen showed dozens of blinking lights, each one representing a message from a different world. "What are they saying?" Jinwoo asked. "They all want the same thing," Wook replied. "Help. The crystalline hive minds from the Vega system say their queens have been shattered for centuries and no one can fix them. The Void Walkers claim they lost their ability to feel emotions 50 years ago. Even the proud Titan builders are asking for assistance with something they call the loneliness curse." Hannah shook her head in wonder. "How did they all find out about us so quickly?" "Word travels fast in the galaxy," Yuki said, entering the room. "Especially when something impossible becomes possible. Every species felt that wave of healing energy. Now they want to know how. Humans did what their greatest scientists could not." Over the next week, more messages arrived every day. Species that had barely acknowledged human existence were now begging for help. They offered technology, trade agreements, and treasures beyond imagination in exchange for human assistance. "We can't help everyone," Taiho said during a colony meeting. "We're just 400 people on one small world." "But we can try to help some of them," Rena suggested. "And maybe we can teach others to do what we did." Yuki stood up at the front of the meeting room. "I have a proposal. With your permission, I would like to stay here permanently and create something new." "What kind of something?" Jinwoo asked. "An Academy of Mythological Sciences," Yuki said. A place where humans can learn to work with the old powers that still exist in the galaxy? You see, Vorith was not the only legendary being who needs help. She waved her hand and created pictures in the air like Elder Nethys had done. They showed amazing creatures scattered across the galaxy, a phoenix being made of starfire who had lost the will to be reborn, a group of Valkyrie warriors who had forgotten what honor meant, and many others. All of these beings came from Earth originally, Yuki explained. They followed humanity to the stars, drawn by your stories and dreams. But many of them have become lost, lonely, or broken. They need the same thing Vorith needed: connection, understanding, and hope. And you think humans can provide that? Soman the teacher asked. I know you can, Yuki said firmly. Other species focus on logic, power, or survival. Only humans truly understand the magic of friendship and the healing power of believing in others. Young Hyon raised his hand. Can I help too? I want to meet more dragons and phoenixes, Yuki smiled. Of course. Children often understand magic better than adults. The colony voted to accept Yuki's proposal. Within a month, construction began on the academy. It was unlike any building in the galaxy, part laboratory, part school, and part magical workshop. Human engineers worked alongside Yuki's mystical knowledge to create something that bridged both worlds. The first students arrived 2 months later. They came from across the galaxy, young humans eager to learn about mythological beings, and legendary creatures seeking to reconnect with the species that had given them form. Wonho became the Academy's first professor of quantum magic, teaching others how to measure impossible things. Nara created the Department of Cultural Mythology, studying how human stories had shaped the galaxy's hidden wonders, but the real breakthroughs came when humans and mythological beings worked together on missions to help others. Minho and a lonely phoenix being traveled to the fire traders of Proxima, where they learned that the phoenix had lost hope because no one remembered why rebirth was beautiful. Together, they created new ceremonies that reminded the fire traders about renewal and second chances. Rena worked with a lost Valkyrie to help the warrior clans of Vega understand that true honor came from protecting others, not just winning battles. Their success was so complete that the warrior clans stopped their century-long civil war in a single day. Even little Hyon became important to the Academy's work. His innocent questions and pure excitement helped heal mythological beings who had become too serious and forgotten how to play. As months passed, the Academy's reputation grew. The Galactic Council, which had previously treated humans as a minor species, officially recognized New Hanbok as a center for impossible solutions. Other species began sending their most difficult problems to the Academy, knowing that humans had a unique gift for finding hope in hopeless situations. Elder Nethys and Vorith became the Academy's protectors and advisors. Vorith's sight had returned completely, and his scales shone brilliant blue again. More importantly, his joy in being able to see had inspired Drakmori across the galaxy to reconnect with their own sense of wonder. One evening, as the purple sun set over New Hanbok, Jinwoo stood with Yuki and Vorith on a hill overlooking the Academy. Students and teachers moved between the buildings below, working on projects that would have been considered impossible just a year ago. How did we become so important so quickly? Jinwoo asked. You were always important, Vorith rumbled, his voice warm with affection. You just didn't know it yet. Other species measure value by strength, intelligence, or technology. But the galaxy's greatest need is for beings who understand love, hope, and the courage to help others even when success seems impossible. The universe is full of broken things, Yuki added. Every species has problems they cannot solve, wounds they cannot heal, dreams they have given up on. Most species try to fix these problems with more power or better technology. But humans are different, Vorith continued. You understand that some problems can only be healed with kindness, patience, and the willingness to believe in others. That is why mythological beings are drawn to you. That is why the Academy works. That is why the galaxy needs you. Down in the Academy, Young Hyun was teaching a baby dragon how to play hide and seek, while Nara helped a homesick unicorn write letters to distant friends. In the laboratories, human scientists worked with magical beings to solve problems that neither group could handle alone. Look at them, Jinwoo said, smiling. Just ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Not ordinary, Yuki corrected gently. Human. There is a difference. Vorath looked out over the academy with his restored golden eyes. Elder Nethys was right about your species. Humans do not simply survive in the galaxy, you teach the galaxy how to heal. As stars began to appear in the darkening sky, messages arrived from distant worlds. The crystal queens of Vega had begun to sing again after. Human counselors helped them remember joy. The Void Walkers had started feeling emotions. Again, after working with human artists who showed them the beauty of sadness and happiness together, each success story proved the same thing. Humanity's greatest gift was not their technology or their courage, though both were impressive. Their greatest gift was their ability to see the good in others and help them find it in themselves. The Academy of Mythological Sciences became a beacon of hope across the galaxy, proving that the most powerful force in the universe was not energy or matter, but the simple human belief that everyone deserved a chance to heal, grow, and find happiness. And at the center of it all, a small colony that had started with just friendship between humans and dragons had grown into something that changed the galaxy forever.